A wonderful welcome to our viewers and those who've joined us physically. We're here for another impactful episode on health, very informative and very insightful. And we're being led for our newcomers, those who are joining us for the first time. We're being led by Sister Jean Wright, very, very senior person in charge of education at Be Free. She's very knowledgeable, very skilled, and so I encourage each one of you to pay attention and join us in today's episode. Thank you. You may come through.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you what an absolute pleasure it is to be here tonight again for our series, The Best Life Ever. And we are now moving on to our next presentation. And for this one, we're actually going to fit two presentations into one. And it worked out absolutely perfectly because we had 8. Remember, there are 8 doctors and we have 7 sessions. And these two just came together perfectly. And so what we're going to talk about today is sunshine, and you may think that's boring because you have so much of it around you. And we're going to talk about fresh air, but stick around because you're going to learn things that I think possibly you didn't know before. So a very warm welcome to sunshine, and our title of this combined talk is Heaven's Gifts for Life, because that's where they both come from. And just a reminder that this comes with absolute pleasure from Be Free Lifestyle. And again, we are saying this is not meant to be medical advice. Please take note of that. If you have a health challenge, then please go and see your healthcare practitioners. Don't make decisions on your own based on these presentations, but you can start using these presentations, and I'm sure your healthcare provider will be very happy to have you taking some responsibility for your own health. So let's go back again to our 8 doctors, and we have done nutrition, we have done exercise, we have done water, and you may see the little fingers pointing at sunshine and air. Now, this sunshine has been a great topic for quite a while, and it becomes very confusing when you put the different sides together, because should we be out in the sunshine or should we stay out of the sunshine? Because there are people who say both sides. And then sunscreens are the things. You are so blessed here to have a wonderful, rich chocolate skin, and it's there. Have you ever noticed that the closer we get to the equator, the darker skins become? That's a protection that God has built into us, and the further you go north, the lighter the skins become again. And so what we're going to do is to look at, should we be in the sun or should we be out of it? Should we be using sunscreens or should we not? Who do we believe? So let's look at it. And I thought let's just look very quickly at skin cancer. And it's actually the most common and the most easily treatable form of cancer. There are 3 types which we're really not interested in, and it's very, very rare for a person to die of skin cancer. Please remember that bit. It's very rare. And I'm going to very briefly mention melanoma, because now they know that melanoma is not related to the sun, and it's not related to sunburn. It's a type of cancer that happens when the cells that help our skin to go brown grow out of control. And I thought, let's just have a look quickly at a melanoma, because this is a good learning time. And what you're going to see is that the outlines of all of those brown spots that you are seeing are all very irregular, and that's a warning signal. So what we're going to say at this point is the tack that we're going to take is that sunshine is good, but sunburn is bad. As far as the melanoma is concerned, the Australians were the first ones to come out with a study saying that they found that those who worked under fluorescent lights were most likely to develop a melanoma. And this really threw the cat amongst the pigeons. So the US Armed Forces got in and they ran a study and they came up with exactly the same thing. And since then, they have found that chemicals are also a problem. And I have particularly put the picture that's in the top right-hand corner there. You can see somebody standing spraying, and I'm absolutely horrified because they have got no protective gear on them. It is criminal to put somebody to spray anything without protective clothing over it, because the pesticides are really not good for us. So they found, as far as melanoma is concerned, that also dry cleaning materials, now there are not as many dry cleaners around anymore as there used to be, but usually people who run dry cleaning centers are the people who tend to get melanoma, and nobody mentions that. So what's good about sunshine? Remember we said that skin cancer is the most common form of cancer, and it's the rarest form of cancer for people to die from. What's good about it? And they said, having sunshine on your skin, no matter what your color of your skin is equivalent to not smoking. And they've also said that the fear of sunlight is equivalent to malnutrition. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And I went to a market yesterday. I was taken to one in Lusaka, and my head buzzed with what I'm going to say now, because I saw this huge space just packed with food, and the fresh was really fresh. And I want you to remember, when you're eating those fresh vegetables and fruit, that to some degree you're actually eating second-hand sunshine, because none of them can grow without sunshine, and because our vitamins and our starch come from sunshine. Now we're going to just start looking at what actually happens when the sun shines on the skin. What you have under your skin is cholesterol. And when the sun shines, it actually gets turned into vitamin D. And this form of vitamin D is never toxic to your body. You can have huge amounts of it. And all your body does, if there's a little bit too much, is it converts it into something else. So let's file that you can't die from too much natural vitamin D, but you can die from the results of a lack of sunshine. And let's just briefly look at what getting out into the sun does to you. And note if there's any problem, any health problem that you may have here. It brings down blood pressure. It strengthens your immune system. It reduces cholesterol. Why? Because we are using the cholesterol under the skin to make vitamin D. It helps to balance your blood sugar. It helps prevent autoimmune diseases. It makes your brain work better. It stops inflammation. And I want to tell you, inflammation is a baddie. And it's associated with absolutely every chronic disease. Do you remember a chronic disease is anything that you've had for over 3 months? They have found at this point in the research that there are at least 12 cancers. If you go out into the sunshine, it actually reduces the risk of getting those cancers. And I love this bit of sunshine, of information. You do not have a risk of developing skin cancer if you regularly go outside in the sunshine. The problem comes when people who don't normally go into the sunshine go and spend one whole day in the sunshine, and that's where skin cancer can come from. Now, in the days gone by, when there were no drugs for TB, the sole treatment that they had for tuberculosis was sitting people in the sunshine, and they would put them out in the sun for hours on end. And unless the TB was very advanced, they actually found that people got better. It worked. And it's only as the drugs have come in that sunshine has been used less and less, and the drugs have been used more and more. And now we're going to talk about how to manage the sun. How much do we actually need? So we've talked about avoiding sunburn, and what we need is about 10 to 20 minutes of full sun. And what you're talking about there is your face, your arms, and your legs up to your knees. Get them maybe 4 days a week, and you will find that you're actually going to be making enough vitamin D. There's just one thing that I do want to say is that the darker your skin is, the greater the excuse you have to go and sit in the sun for longer. And you're actually doing your health a service. You're doing the people you live with a service when you go and sit in the sun, because you become a healthier person and an easier person to live with. Now, there are many parts of the world where people do not get much sunshine in wintertime, and they become depressed. It's so well known. So what these people do is they have special globes put into their houses so that it gives the same sort of rays that sunlight gives to try and help prevent this depression. Now, one of the things we know is that if people's diets are good, they're really not prone to getting damaged. Our lifestyle as we were learning. And as a child, I used to get sunburn on sunburn because I was a water baby. And then I got married, and I have a relatively fair skin under the hidden parts of my clothing, and I used to burn. And after the change, I think it must have been about 6 months, we went on holiday to an area that is subtropical, where the sun was baking. It was December, and we noticed we weren't burning. And this was quite noticeable. But one other change that we had made at the same time was we actually stopped using yellow oils. Because we now know what happens. These yellow oils come under the skin, and they've actually worked out what goes on that helps skin cancer to start developing. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched cricketers. When they play in a game and there's a blazing sun, they paint white all over their faces. And that's just zinc ointment. So if you want to have a paler face, it's okay. Go and put some zinc ointment on. I often laugh at our planet because if you're darker, you want your face to be lighter. If you're lighter, you want your face to be darker. And you know what? We're just never satisfied. So we need to make sure that we are feeding ourselves the right food to help protect us and to help keep our bodies healthy. So we want to help and not harm ourselves. And they have found that having just that amount of sunshine is as good nutrition and exercise and good sleep. So do you see, it's also important. We've spoken about these others, and we haven't done sleep yet, so that bit is coming still. So if you have sleep problems, do remember to join us. And we now know that regular and adequate sun exposure is needed for you to really feel healthy and to help prevent disease. And somehow it came in where big business really took control and managed to persuade us that something that is actually vital for our health is bad for us and that we need to avoid it. It's just extremes that we need to stay away from. And there's a sweet spot somewhere between the two. So let's talk a little bit, give you an illustration of, is water good for us? Of course it is. But if you ask any doctor, if we had to go and I decided I was suddenly going to drink 12 liters. I've got 12 bottle pictures there in the next half an hour. 12 liters of water. I could go into a coma and I could die from it. But is water bad for me? No. And it's exactly the same principle with sunshine. So we're back again and we are saying sunshine is good, sunburn is bad, but on top of that sun lotion container, I have a cross which says no, because they have so many chemicals in them. You might as well just use zinc ointment if you want to go and spend a whole day in the sun and stay away from these chemicals. There's many indications now that a lot of these sun creams are actually causing skin cancer instead of preventing it. Now, we have an interesting picture, and it may look very complicated. And all that is a drawing of what the sun puts out. So, there's light that we can see from the sun, and there's infrared that we can't see. And this light enters our eyes and helps build and store energy. And do you remember we talked about in the water one, how when the sun shines on the water that's under our skin, how it actually energizes it? So what we've known for a long time is that there are biophotons. That's just a type of ray from light that goes through the eyes, and it triggers a whole lot of activity in the brain. So if you're wearing glasses, if you're wearing contact lenses, please take them off for at least 10 minutes a day so that you can allow these rays to go through. And this was just a cut and paste, and I like it because in the light waves are electricity, magnetic, electromagnetic waves. And that funny picture that you have there, there's one lot of rays, the orange ones that go up and down like this. And along with it, at the same time, there are other ones that are going sideways. And we've made them different colors so you can actually pick them out. And the blue ones are magnetic waves, and the orange ones are electric ones, and they carry energy. So there's a little thing at the top that says light is made of photons. And photons carry energy. And a wave of light and a ray of light are exactly the same thing. So these electromagnetic energy that is carried by photons. And what they do is they help energize our cells, and they have a part to play in the making of this vitamin D that happens when the sun shines on our skin. And they have now, the very new research is saying that getting regular sun exposure is one of the most basic needs that our genes have. Remember we talked about the genes, and these genes actually need sunshine for them to work properly. And it looks as though it's happening is that it actually makes our genes put out like laser lights into our body. And the newest ones are that just like there are receptors for photons in every plant leaf that you have, now not only do we have the photons going through our eyes, but we actually have receptors for them in our skin. And I'm going to show you. Yeah, they actually managed to take a photo of the activation of these little photons when light hits them. Something happens. Can you see the hand has come alive? It actually creates an electromagnetic field, and our body is electric. This is not New Age. This is science now. So these biophotons, we know they help to strengthen our immunity, and they help to prevent chronic disease. And there are some people who do nothing but study these photons, and they are saying that the medicine of the future is going to be used, they will use the photons as medicine, and they say when they use it, it actually makes organs rebuild themselves again. So we're going to watch and see what happens in the future. This is still early days, but this is what the people are convinced is actually happening. So we know now that we can trap energy. And I hope you found this interesting and gives us a lot more motivation to actually make some time every day to go and stand out in the sunshine. And Ecclesiastes 11 verse 7 says, truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun. And from my favorite author again, when the sunlight of God's love illuminates the darkened chambers of the soul, restless weariness and dissatisfaction will cease, and satisfying joy will give vigor to the mind and health and energy of the body. And now we're going to move across onto fresh air, and it's absolutely and totally different, but the effects are the same. And the first thing I want you to do is to just quietly sit, and I want you to imagine the smell of a rose. I can do it. Or imagine when the earth has been dry and the first rains have just dropped down, and you get this amazing smell of the earth around you. Remember those. I want you to just think for a moment about the smell and the taste of a guava. And let's say, hopefully it's been picked from a tree in your garden. So we are now talking about our senses. Yeah, you can see seeds floating around in the air. So yeah, nature's looking after itself and spreading itself around. And all of these happen with the courtesy of moving air. And it's something that we just can't live without. See, if we don't have air, we've got a lifespan maximum of about 4 to 5 minutes. And one of the things you want is unpolluted, clean air. What does oxygen do for you? Because there's oxygen in the air, and we need oxygen, but we don't need too much, and we don't need too little. This oxygen freshens you, it electrifies your body, it soothes your nerves, and it plays a huge part in the making of energy inside of a cell. And for a moment, I want to tell you about Dr. Otto Warburg. He won a Nobel Prize, and he found out that cancer grows where there's not enough oxygen in acid tissue. And it was for that he got the award, because what's supposed to happen is that healthy tissues are supposed to be alkaline and not acid. And so what Dr. Warburg found out is that cell energy is made and stored in a certain place. And we have talked before, what we have on the left is we have a cell, and I've taken one of the little organelles out of the cell. Just like a body has organs, so a cell has tiny little organelles in it, and those help to keep that. It's like a city. It's not just like a factory. What happens inside one cell is like a city. There's much that is going on, and the more we learn, the more we realize what is going on. So what I've taken out of there is I have taken one of the little organelles called a mitochondria. And what Dr. Warburg discovered was that there are 2 ways that the body produces energy. And the one is using oxygen, and the other one is using a fermentation process. And if you're not having enough oxygen, he found that there's a fermentation process that actually starts in the cells. And it's in fermentation that cancer actually grows. So we need the oxygen. There's no doubt about it. And again, we're saying, not a good idea to be a couch potato. What will make you suspect that maybe you are not actually getting enough oxygen? You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel fatigue. You really are going to find it very hard to do what you need to do physically during the day. Your brain's not going to work so well. You could get a headache. Some people actually get nauseous from not having enough. And so what we're going to do now is we're now going into the bloodstream. And what you are seeing there are individual red blood cells. And when the red blood cells go to the lungs, they pick up oxygen from what has been brought through, from breathing. And these red blood cells sit on like little seats, we call them receptors, as they travel through the body. And it is this sticking on of the red blood cells, the oxygen onto the red blood cells, that gives the blood a bright red color. And I want you to remember these red blood cells, because all of them have got electrical charges. And we're back to the negatives. Do you remember? The negatives are healing to your body. The positives make you not feel well. They're associated with disease processes. And what makes those negative charges? Where do we get it from? And there are 3 things. And I want you to remember all 3 now. It's moisture, that has to do with water. It's movement and it's air. Moisture, movement, and air. Now, let's go to a thunderstorm. Do we have moisture? Yes. Do we have movement? Yes. Do we have air? Yes. And there are actually interesting things that happen before, as the thunderstorm is building up. You can sometimes feel quite depressed. And at that particular point, what they're finding is that there's a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. But the moment the thunderstorm breaks and the water, the movement, the air starts happening, that everything becomes negatively charged. And it's the most amazing thing as you go outside and you're smelling the earth as it's become wet and you are feeling well, you are feeling energized. Let's go to a waterfall. Is there moisture there? Yes. Is there movement there? Yes. Is there air there? Yes. And this is why when you go somewhere where you are getting moving water, that you feel so good. If you just go out for the day just to enjoy, or maybe take a meal out and go and eat a meal out in nature. We have the same with seas and rivers, and in a pine forest is an excellent place as well to go and get negative ions. You will always get some there because pine trees have got very small leaves that move very, very easily, and there's always humidity in a forest. And so it just takes a little bit of movement to actually make negative ions. So, go back again, negative ions make us feel good. That's right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about positive ions. And what they have is they've got more carbon dioxide in their molecules than oxygen. That's the only difference between one electrical charge, the negative one, and the positive one is the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen in them. And there are many people who actually become quite uncomfortable from a lack of oxygen before a thunderstorm. Where do we get them from? Well, we're breathing out carbon dioxide, aren't we? When we sleep with closed windows and we're not allowing fresh air in, we're robbing ourselves of energy for the next day. If we're jogging along a busy road, and it amazes me how you'll find a jogger out on a road and there's just so much traffic passing by. And all that jogger is breathing in lots and lots of fumes from the cars that are passing by, and then electrical machinery. And now I want to talk to you about carbon monoxide. I'm aware of hearing on a regular basis in winter time where people have gone into a home because the people have not come out of the home in the morning. And when they try to find out if they're home, and they know they haven't gone out, and there's no response. And so they manage to call the police, get the door down, and they find the whole family has died. And that's from carbon monoxide. See, oxygen is made to leave the red blood cells very quickly. But carbon dioxide can also ride on a red blood cell. And it sticks onto it. In fact, it can stick onto a red blood cell for 3 days. And it's a very dangerous gas because your problem is you can't smell it. You don't know it's there. You're totally oblivious. And so we are now this tight union. They take the people that they may find still alive when a fire has been built on the inside of a home and there's no windows open. It can even be in a fireplace, and they give them oxygen. But they struggle because the carbon monoxide just won't let go of those red blood cells. And they never know. It takes about 3 days for them to know whether they're actually going to save the person or not. So we need to remember, when there's a fire, make sure that there's a through draft somewhere to actually pull the carbon dioxide and the carbon monoxide out of where you're sitting, because you won't know otherwise. And we've already learned that the most powerful way to get oxygen into your body is through exercise, and we need to drink enough water. And remember, if you're tired, drink several glasses of water. And remember that how your red blood cells, when you're dehydrated, how they stick together and they struggle to get through those tiny little capillaries, those very tiny blood vessels where they have to go through in single file. And remember, if it was just 1 or 2 kilometers in our body where it's struggling, it wouldn't be so bad. But we have about 100,000 kilometers of these capillaries inside of our bodies, and the blood is struggling to get through each and every single one. How do you get yourself to breathe properly? And your easiest way is to just pull your belly button in. The moment you pull your belly button in, you are making a muscle that goes right around here, pull you into the upright position. And what happens is you stop breathing from up top here. You shouldn't. You should be breathing down at the bottom here. And the moment you do that, you automatically will start breathing from the bottom of your lungs. So, this good posture plays a part in it. And we need to remember to breathe in. Take it seriously. And I want to read you a quote which says, "Prayer is the breath of the soul. It is the secret of spiritual power. No other means of grace can be substituted, and the health of the soul be preserved. Prayer brings the heat into immediate contact with the wellspring of life and strengthens the sinew and the muscle of the religious experience. Neglect the exercise of prayer or engage in prayer spasmodically now and then as seems convenient, and you lose your hold on God." Thank you so much for being with us again. Could we just close our eyes and talk to our Creator God? Creator God, the more we learn, the more we stand in awe of your magnificence, your wisdom, and your power. And we are your children, and you care about us, and you love us. And I want to give everyone who's listening into your care and keeping. Keep them, keep their family safe, and help us to be wise stewards of the body that you have given us. In your lovely name, amen.
Iseni wangu weka tula mutufumye muchalwechi tukaye tusha umwesu kwishiria ya chimana. Susha Uomesu Kwishila Yachina